All the study session of the Laguna Beach City Council to order. Anne Marie, could we do a roll call, please?
Councilmember Jones. Here. Councilmember Kim. Here. Councilmember Whalen.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Orgill.
Here.
Mayor Renagi.
Here. So what we have is the downtown streetscape vision plan study session. And, as everyone here knows, a study session, the goal is to provide, learn about an issue and provide high level feedback. All the decision points will happen at a later time. But with that being said, we can give feedback. So I think what we'll do is turn this over to city staff to provide a presentation.
Their hard stop.
We have a hard stop at 3:45.
Perfect. Good afternoon, Mayor, members of City Council. So today's study session, as you mentioned, is focused on the downtown street vision plan, developed at the council's direction on June 10th in response to AB 413, known as the California Daylighting Law. And we'll cover a little bit about that right now. AB 413 requires a 20-foot no parking zone on the approach side of any marked or unmarked crosswalk, or a 15 feet where a curb extension exists. This plan allows the city to reimagine how to activate these newly open spaces in the downtown area to improve safety, enhance pedestrian access, and create opportunities for landscaping, seating, art, outdoor dining, and other community activity. The council will receive a presentation from SWA Group and have the opportunity to provide feedback to staff on the proposed plan. We'd also like to share with members of the public that although outdoor dining is identified as a potential use for these curb extension areas, the broader policy discussion on outdoor dining will occur later tonight during the regular city council meeting. Additionally, the regular meeting will include a discussion regarding the improvements on Ocean Avenue and Beach Street. That's going to be item 19. So we recognize that there's some overlap between these three items, and we just want to make clear for anybody following along that there'll be another opportunity to provide feedback on these topics tonight. And with that, happy to turn it over to Sean and Evan from SWA for their presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis. So this slide here represents, we've identified 11 places, 11 intersections here in the village area where this conflict occurs with the daylight law. And for us, this represents both a challenge but an opportunity at the same time. Next slide. And you can see these are, there we go. Some images of those intersections. On the upper left is an example of where you're kind of close to a crosswalk there. And obviously, that's an opportunity zone where a bulb out could occur. Some of the other slides, like the next one just to the right of that on the top, the second on the top there, represents where you have a conflict zone adjacent to a stop sign. So another opportunity for us to really look at how we could both improve safety and livability at the same time. We'll go to the next slide because the rest of the images are really a lot of the same kind of issues, either conflicts at intersections or crosswalks. So our goals really are, number one, to improve safety, safe crosswalks. And number two, bring more planting into the village area, make Laguna Beach more livable. In so doing, provide opportunities to increase gathering spaces, more public art, and provide a more permanent solution to some of the parklets that we have. And so our strategy, of course, is to implement these curb extensions for traffic calming, safer crossings, additional planting opportunities, and permanent parklets. Also to preserve as much parking as possible. You're going to see a couple of alternatives. Alternative one on these different streets will be the minimum required per the law. And alternative two is, what if we really went for it and there's a trade-off with loss of parking? So just keep that in mind. And then, of course, we also want to preserve the beautiful character of Laguna Beach at the same time. And I think these the additional parklets provide us that opportunity to do so, to bring more landscape into the village area itself. And I think we're very lucky that we now have an intersection of safety and public realm, and we can accomplish both at the same time.
Right. Continuing on with what Sean said, we really implemented this through a kind of a series of kit parts approach street by street, intersection by intersection, just because the conditions out there are so varied. So I just wanted to start off here by basically explaining that it follows the same logic. So it's basically the daylighting at the crosswalk, basically creating a bulb out. And just for some additional clarity, a bulb out allows us actually additional parking space along the street due to this daylighting law being 15 feet if it's a bulb out, 20 feet if it's nothing, if it's just red striped curb. So yeah, bulb out for beautification and for crosswalk enhancement. So this first slide looks at the required options or the required per law, and you can see there that there's 10 noted intersections, and basically the little green spaces identify opportunities to widen the sidewalk with a bulb out. And these bulb outs are really just consisting of three types of approaches, which I'll explain here a little bit further. The second alternative option is if we really went all out, and again, all the green is enhanced planting opportunities. However, really the only area that we're losing parking is a proposed new mid-block crossing, which is number 8, that orange circle there. Everywhere else, we're looking to basically have a bulb out where there's currently red stripes or small pocket spaces along the street as you enter in either a private or a public parking lot. The three types of strategies that we're looking at for these bulb outs is one, strictly just planting, planting that could include, the natural and beautiful planting that you see around town, around in the neighborhoods, in downtown, enhanced trees. Second one being parklet, which is basically identified in pink. And these parklet opportunities are really just already aligned with existing temporary parklets. And the third being public art. So this could actually double up with the planting, but an opportunity to incorporate new opportunities for public art to kind of spread that throughout downtown. So the noted parklets here, of course, parklets along Beach, along Laura Forest, one along Ocean, on Mermaid, and part of Park Avenue. So this map and this diagram basically shows the existing art locations, and we've kind of classified that in our studies being one is something it's more sculptural in nature. It's a visual element, and that's marked in this orange. And the blue is a sculptural seating, so it's an opportunity to basically merge art with necessary components of a public space. When one of that is being seating. And what we've kind of identified is in yellow are opportunities for art locations. And what we're hoping to achieve is create a walkable map. So every 100 feet, you'll have an opportunity to see public art. And every 250 feet, it's an interactive element, such as a bench. We kind of see that updated here once we create those walkable circles on our yellow marks. Of course, some logistics as we work through this is there are existing city owned fire hydrants, of course, and existing stormwater drains. We have kind of a varied approach to this. And again, since we're looking at this at the conceptual level, this will be an evolving detail. But many of the systems in place that we believe that won't require any sort of additional extension of the stormwater, we can have more of a creative solution by kind of capping off that. We've done that in a variety of projects, still create a walkable space. These are just identified of the 6 parklet types. And again, I think one of the things that we're looking to do is basically standardize the look and approach to these. So that way, once or if these become more permanent spaces, that it's a unified approach that could be upscaled or downscaled depending on the tenants and currently the ones that are in place. This is just another view of that required option. So again, this is option 1. This is only per the daylighting law. you see that most of these opportunities really just are, there's a few of them, but they're all dictating on inbound traffic. So it's the direction of travel up to a crosswalk, not the exiting. So it provides a lot of, well, some enhanced planting on beach and ocean, and a few areas, kind of one-off areas throughout downtown. The alternative, and again, this is just full comprehensive. We're not saying all of them are necessary, but we're basically saying this is all the possibilities that are out here. And a lot of it has to look at basically creating a mirrored condition at the intersections, so that way you can align crosswalks and have shorter distances for pedestrians to cross, and basically frame and provide additional planning opportunities that are really aligning with the parking lots as previously mentioned.
And each tree is where you'd have a bulb out of the curb, basically.
Right. I'll go through these rather quickly because it is fairly detailed, but we have a series of enlargements that go street by street. And we'll start here with Broadway. And Broadway, the main challenge with this one, and this is all pending Caltrans approval, as their ownership of the street, is that there are a lot of red striping opportunities here, and Broadway is really seen as that connection from the canyon to Coast Highway, and it's really seen as more of a transportation road, and this is wider to accommodate that. But we feel like at these ends of these existing parallel parking spots, there are opportunities to create bulb outs that are actually not removing any parking. And there's also opportunities on Upper Broadway to extend out slightly from basically right around the bus depot. On Ocean, we've created bulb outs. So again, you can see here it's mostly aligning with the Beach Street and the Ocean crossing. There are other opportunities that essentially frame and kind of cap off parking spaces, either angled or parallel. And these just help kind of diminish the effect of vehicles as you walk or drive down the street. This is the only street that we're proposing a potential mid-block crossing. There's already an existing one in Lower Ocean, and in our plans, we've aligned it with the bus depot area, and just because it's central location and it's kind of flexibility with that connectivity zone.
And is there any lots of parking here, Evan, in option 2?
Yeah, and that mid-block crossing is the only area that would be lose parking stalls, and we're currently losing about 4 to create that. So on Beach Street, one of the things we'd like to do and what we've studied is basically extending kind of the left side there of Beach Street and projecting that outwards to align itself with the side between Ocean and Forest. And this is particularly just extra wide part of the street. We'd basically just be pushing the parallel parking stalls out without any loss of parking and just creating kind of a wider opportunity zone there, just because that part of the street is very narrow and being impacted by the ficus trees over the canal area. This one starts to note that we have, the parklet opportunity there, and what we'd be really be saying is extending that bulb out the width of the park, the current parklet, and we'd just be having a brick on Sunset application to extend that dining area. And the good thing about that approach is as this scales or downscales or goes away, the brick can just be pulled up and replaced with planting, and that's
How many spaces? How many spaces are we losing of?
yeah. I guess this would be losing 3, but this is the 3 that are currently actually 2. One of them's in the daylighting law area, and 2 additional which are currently occupied by a parklet.
Can I just quickly interject here? In part of preparing this report, apologies, it's small, but in the top right corner, you'll see a parking count box, and that has 2 options, the required and the alternative, and shows the loss of parking on each one of these streets.
All right, on Forest Avenue, again, option 1 is required, mostly aligning itself with Beach Street. Alternative 2 is looking to recapture some of the additional crossing opportunities there and to kind of frame off the parallel parking stalls. Upper Forest, there's a lot of great opportunities here to deal with a really problematic crossing. Both of these crossings here on Upper Forest are fairly problematic. Both of these align itself. Actually, the one on the left aligns itself without having to impact any of the parking lot opportunities there. And the one that's in front of the fire station looks at basically extending out the curb line there to kind of capture that space. Third Street, not too much improvements here. We're just essentially suggesting at the Mermaid Crossing just to cap off that end there. It's kind of the same notion with Second Street. We've included bulb outs that frame the parking lot, just to kind of, again, segment off the parallel parking stalls and to kind of cap off the crossing there along Forest. On Glenary, we're looking to, again, similar notion, capping off the ends, really just framing the crosswalks. The only one that is technically required per option 1 is the one near parking lot 5 on Mermaid Street. Again, just highlighting that some of the changes here. Again, looking at the one just mentioned near parking lot 5 and additional bulb out opportunities along the kind of mid-block crossing. Again, these would look at eliminating 5 parking stalls there. And part of that is also extending out the parklet opportunity that currently exists along the intersection of Glenary and Mermaid. South Coast Highway, this one mostly looking at the Park Avenue space. Again, there's an existing parklet, or current parklet there, and we're looking to basically frame off that space on both sides. The daylighting on that near Pizza Bar, that is required, is currently capped off with a red cover on the parking meter, but that's an opportunity for us to capture. Cliff Drive, this is just to be more comprehensive of the entire downtown. Again, strategies for here are just looking to capture the crossing, kind of the mid crossing there, and capturing the ends. And those are currently not occupied by parking, just the mid block. Kind of lastly, we included this slide, which is what we've had on our recent ocean study. This looks at just approach of tree wells as we currently are studying them. This is kind of an addition to the bulb out study, really, but currently we're looking to align ourselves with the logic that's going around on Lower Forest Promenade, the same motif, although two approaches. So the first one being the tree grate is one for new trees of a smaller footprint in critical walking paths. And for the most part, due to the extensive existing trees throughout downtown, we're proposing a DG that can be adaptable and it's kind of scaled up based on the size of the tree trunk. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Great presentation. So before we get to council questions, then public comment, what feedback are you looking for today? Like going through each of these to give you direction on each one, or what would be helpful feedback for the council, which we'll provide after public comment?
Yeah. Well, obviously, there's a couple alternatives here we can go by, and what's required, and then a more aggressive approach. The question in my mind is, okay, the more aggressive approach, you lose a few spaces, sometimes you don't at all. Overall, how many spaces, if you took the more aggressive approach, for example, for all of the options, overall, how many, what does that entail? And then where can we pick those 25 spaces up or so that we might lose?
If I can elaborate on that, Mayor, this will ultimately likely be programmed into a CIP. So we would like to understand from the council what, if anything, you would like us to explore as part of a mid-year budget process.
So is it fair that maybe what you're looking for is, one, is this something that we're interested in to prioritize for the CIP? And then two, high level, thoughts on to what extent should we be aggressive here with the trade-offs involved with making this, a world-class downtown versus parking, right? Okay.
Yep.
City manager, anything to add?
And I think I know Megan will chime in as to the consequences with the Coastal Commission of if we do lose those parking spots. I want to note for the record that when I talked to the Coastal Commission staff about AB 413 and how other cities were doing that, and they said I'm going to paraphrase, they're just following it with them, but they'd like to know what we do and like to consult with us because it's not their preference off the top of their head to lose the parking space entirely. They said you should think about bike parking or scooter parking instead. So I think we just need to have that into our consciousness and decision-making process here. So you guys
Good.
do.
Okay. Any questions from council? No questions. I think overall, this is a very where we're taking advantage of a law and trying to leverage that law to achieve, which we have to do anyways, to achieve making our downtown better. So overall, it's very exciting. So let's raise our hands and see who wants to speak and raise them high. So I need to count how many speakers. Okay, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I think what we'll do is 2-minute public comment, and then we will bring this back to the council. And as I said at the beginning, there's going to be a lot more. This is not even a CIP item yet. So at this point, it's very high level. So there will be a lot of opportunities. So let's line up for public comments. Let's make sure we have 3 people in a row so that we don't have a time delay between speakers.
Guess I get to go first. I'm Steve Chatama. I'm here in my capacity as chair of the Environmental Sustainability Committee. One of our tasks in implementing the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan that you adopted earlier this year is to create better, safer opportunities for alternative forms of transportation, including pedestrian and bicycle use in the city. So thank you, Dave, for bringing up the potential use of some of these bulb outs. Part of our effort is really to help bicyclists feel more comfortable coming into town. And I think if any of you look around, you'll see there is almost a complete lack of places for people to park their bikes, lock up their bikes. And these bulb outs could present a great opportunity for some additional bicycle parking and locking. We actually are pursuing an idea that we're going to involve both the Parking and Circulation Committee, and we've reached out to the Arts Commission. We think there's an opportunity to involve artists in town to create clever, creative, but hopefully self-identifying and obvious places to park a bike that could be very in sync with Laguna as an art community, but also create the opportunity to actually park your bike in a helpful way. So as you look at these, I encourage you to think creatively about places where you can actually use some of this space, this newly open space, to park bikes. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll be real quick. One, just kind of a curiosity question. Does AB 413 apply to charter cities? 2, what are the dimensions of the bulb outs? Are they all the same, or how far out do they stick? And then 3, a safety concern on a very specific issue. At the base of the 3rd Street Hill, it's defined as a crosswalk. I don't have a good alternate solution, but that is really dangerous to encourage that as a crosswalk with cars speeding down that hill. So I would like to see that crosswalk discouraged just from a safety standpoint. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
I got a couple quick ones too. To Dave's point on the possible opportunity to put bikes and scooters in there, maybe also golf carts. Who knows? Just an idea. Other thing is on the bulb outs. Some of the streets, the one way to test this would just be to ask the fire department. We do a mock-up and have the fire department take the turn and see if they can navigate it easily. Just as a thought, we control that and we control those trucks. So maybe as they're training, they can take some of those turns and we can see where we actually might be doing these things, make sure they can navigate it. That would then handle all of the, pavilions, trucks that are rolling through and all the big trucks that come and go through Laguna Beach. Thanks, that's it.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Bob Borthwick, landscape architect. I wanted to urge more flexibility or more options with regard to the tree well situations. I think, the iron grate has some pros and cons to it in terms of long-term maintenance, and so does the decomposed granite. So I would just like to urge the consultants to provide more options that the council could weigh in on, that Public Works could weigh in on, and the public and so forth, because there are a number of other options for tree wells that could be looked at. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Hogue, and my hobby is urban theory. Most of you won't know what urban theory is, but it looks at what people are thinking and what they've been watching on television. And so I've done a lot of traveling, and I'm not going to places like Las Vegas or downtown LA. I'm going to places where they have excuse the word, public transportation. If we want people in Laguna Beach to come here and spend money, they have to get here. And what they're doing over there is buses and trains, and it works well. And so the other thing, I'd love to find out who wrote this agenda, whose idea was, who first came up with the idea. We're going to remodel the streets in Laguna Beach to make it better for who? Who's it going to be better for? Cars or shoppers? So I'm a big fan of sponsoring shoppers, people that come here to spend, big fan. And the sand and ocean will take care of itself. So that's my question. Who is sponsoring this? Who wrote the first agenda item? And so when I'm sitting in the audience, my hearing isn't good. So I'm not hearing any of what people are saying. Except this guy here said, we need to hear from the audience. Thank you very much for that.
Michael, we'll be sure to answer your question about who wrote the staff report and brought it back to.
So a couple of months ago, I broke my lower back. So I'm now not walking, I'm hobbling. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. It was very detailed. I echo a lot of the comments that other people have made. I think, as I'm sure people are aware, it's important to think about the loss of parking. It looked like the max was over 30. I think it would be wise to think about the effect on traffic. So like if you do the minimum, it said, I think 10 locations instead of like over 20 something. As once those 10, bulb outs happen, and obviously keeping in mind of scooters, bikes, I think all that's a great idea, or golf carts. Another thing too, there's lots of intersections. There's like one on Glenary right at Mermaid where a lot of cars try to like weave in to create a second lane. And I know not all of those can be saved as the requirement of the state law, but I think it's important to think about traffic and how traffic will be backing up like another person commented with delivery trucks. I took a few photos just on Sunday. There's a lot of trucks, unfortunately, people double park, whether it's like some of the mail carriers double park, even residents double park, it's something that happens. And so with all of the max bulb outs, keeping in mind that that's going to obviously create a big traffic issue with delivery trucks, double parking, and obviously the loss of being able to pull out behind the backup of traffic to make right turns and left turns. So I'm sure the city council, you guys are all thinking about that, and maybe it's an approach of less is more at first, and like little by little see the reaction to the initial bulb outs that are required by law, and then take a second look at it later on, like a year or two later, or however long it takes. But yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
I have a comment, Ann Christoph, regarding the pedestrian opportunities. The Landscape and Scenic Highways Plan suggests that on Broadway, that there be a mid-block crossing opportunity, roughly in the vicinity of the Laguna Federal Savings and Loan, Wells Fargo, I'm in the past, and Coast Hardware, because, the businesses on the north side of Broadway, it's difficult to access them if you're just walking downtown. There's only two places to cross. And if we had a mid-block crossing, I think that would be an enhancement, and it would bring that commercial area into the mainstream. The other is that picture I just sent you. Those are tree wells at the hospital, and you can see the problems with it. The trunk expands, and then it fills the hole that's provided for the tree. And it not only expands, but it also raises the grate, creating a pedestrian hazard. And these are very difficult to deal with. It's much better not to try to encase the tree in some kind of metal enclosure and to use a softer option. And I know that the city manager's looking into possible other options other than the tree grates. The flexible resin-based mulch-looking permeable material, it seems to me, is an excellent choice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Okay, I have a couple comments for you gentlemen, I think. First, I agree with this navigation on turns, because that's been a challenge in our new $1 million parking lot or entrance. So I'm glad that was brought up. Secondly, we're talking about all these parklets. And I can tell you, I've never seen a single restaurant overflowing with people because they don't have enough room inside dining. So I'd like to see all the parklets in front of the restaurants gone, because I can guarantee you their customers need the parking more than they need to sit in some corral. So that's huge. And I think most of the public agrees with that. So, and you can even ask them. Number two, that was the parklets. Couple things for you. Enhanced trees, we have no idea what that means. And your yellow doesn't show up when you're telling us this program thing. The other thing is, you brought up the word standardized for some kind of corners. Can you help me out with this? Do you know what I'm talking about? Because you're using the word standardized look for all of these.
Here, do you want to direct it to me, and we'll try to get answered? No, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay, so they kept saying standardized,
Okay.
and they're showing like the corral look, et cetera, et cetera. And I was looking at the photos. I'm like, oh, dear God, standardized. This isn't Irvine. And my suggestion, you've got all these cool artists here. We can help you come up with some great ideas for some looks, because I don't think anybody wants Laguna to look like Irvine. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Robin Hall, and I'm a 45-plus year resident of Laguna Beach. And I was at the November 4th work study and was really very disappointed. Number one, it wasn't well noticed, and the businesses weren't invited to come to the meeting to the best of our knowledge. You had one business represented and that was it, and that was Georgina's. And they said they had not been notified. And their employee had heard about it through the grapevine and called them and they came to the workshop. I was there and everyone spoke against the idea. And all of our comments we were told would be memorialized, but I guess they haven't because the report is going to be a verbal report, which is a little disingenuous because you miss the flavor when you read something versus someone reporting back that is actually a proponent of what was proposed. I walk downtown quite a bit and I was just down this week. And so I decided I was going to stop at the three banks on Ocean Avenue and ask them if they had any idea what was being proposed about the one-way to Ocean on lower Ocean. And not one of them knew. Now, maybe I wasn't talking with the right people, but I don't know whether the city actually noticed and called in the businesses that are on Ocean before they started designing anything. And to me, it seems like when you're going to fix something, there has to be a problem. So what is the problem and who do you address? Your audience. You address the users, and the users are the residents and the businesses there. And I'm glad to hear that the proposal to make it one way has been dropped for the moment. But as we know, this has been resurrected from 2019 when residents expressed a great deal of dismay that you were even considering this. And one of the worst ideas is that for us that come from the south and going north, once traffic backs up and you know, oh my gosh, I don't want to turn right at Broadway, I want to turn here and get out of Main all of the traffic. So I just think that there's a lot more thought that needs to go into this. And with the proposed berms, we're going to slow down traffic, make parking more difficult. And I think that there should be much more thought given to this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any final speakers? So anyone else who wants to speak on this item, stand up, or else we're gonna, okay, so two more speak. I'm just trying to get everyone lined up. Okay, so you'll be the final, are you speaking, Jerome? Okay, so you'll be our final speaker. Okay, please go ahead.
Ann Krisman. I remember when I saw their little red bags going over all the parking meters when this bill got passed, and I thought, oh, how sad. There goes more parking. And now I'm upset to learn that you want to maybe even take this and take even more parking. So I realize that we have to take away the parking because it's coming from Sacramento and there's nothing we can do about it. But we do not need to, I saw the little graph, it shows this takes 3 parking, this takes 5, this takes 1, this takes 2. Why would we take more parking away? And to put I love trees, but then we talk about taking trees down. We talk about, should we take the montage trees down? Now, should we take parking to put new trees in? It just seems like we're getting mixed messages here, but I would definitely say do not take any more parking and do the parklets. Our town is mainly a daytime town. Those parklets sit vacant, except that they hold the chairs and the tables and the heaters for the restaurants. They use them as storage. We should not have the parklets. I remember talking to Sue about parklets. And she said, oh, don't worry, they're going to be gone in a year.
Well, we're talking about the parklets later on tonight. This is not a parklet meeting.
But it's a
streetscape meeting.
Right, but the streetscape part of it was to keep parklets. Am I right? Wasn't that part of the plan?
I'm going to talk about that later tonight.
Okay. So I would say, let's just do what we have to do for Sacramento to take more parking away, but not to increase taking parking away. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, our final speaker.
I'm coming pretty late to this party, so these may be moot points, but 5 years ago, there was talk about getting rid of 118 trees downtown. And now suddenly we're talking about adding trees. There's a mixed message for you. Everyone knows that parking is an issue, yet now we seem to want to eliminate up to 30 spaces. I have to ask, is this not also just part of an effort to justify the building of a $12 to $20 million parking structure? We keep taking away and then we talk about having to add. So where's all this money coming from?
You know, we've got a $12 to $20 million parking structure you're talking about. And then there's a $141 million canyon project you're talking about. And there's I think it was $8.63 million artist housing that we're talking about. And then there is the promenade build out, which I'm not sure that there is a total budget that's been presented to the public. So we don't know really the bottom line on that. And supposedly we're all strapped for cash in this town. So it sounds to me, my ears are ringing of, oh, let's increase taxes. So where's the end coming, folks? And a lot of these projects have never been vetted with the public. They've been pretty much directed and demanded by the city council. So I just keep seeing these, cockamamie plans that seem to come out of nowhere. You know, talk to the public, start listening to them, because we're definitely not being heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to bring this back to council. What I'm going to do is propose that we go to let's go to 3:55. Can we make that work, Megan? Okay, we're going to be fast. So let's take a couple of the high level questions. I'm not going to get into all of them, but charter cities, I would assume that general law cities, a charter city would still have to follow this law because it's related to traffic, right? The daylighting law.
Mr. Mayor, correct. I understand that charter cities are following this law and implementing it.
Okay. And then I guess the fire department would review all this, in the future. So it's a good point that'll be considered. And then those are the high level questions that I have. Who wants to start?
I'll jump in.
Okay, or ask other questions.
So during roadway, whenever there's roadway improvements or design, they take it through a couple of exercises. One, a real exercise like mentioned, maybe the fire department would weigh in on it, but they also run it through a radius model to make sure that everything works. Regarding the photo that Ann Christoph brought up, the number one concern with the tree wells right now, Ann, is the safety. There's a lot of unsafe conditions. Currently, we're looking for solutions to get rid of all the tripping hazards. Coincidentally, the image that you brought up shows that this grate is directly applied to the soil surrounding the tree. And the modern way of doing these is there's a different construction detail where the actual tree base is roughly 9 inches below the grate. I'm not insinuating that the grate is the only way to do it. I'm just saying that there are a lot of new ways to go about this, including trays that do hold brick details.
Okay, we don't have time for a conversation. Why don't let's have an
Making the.
let's have an
So I wanted to correct.
let's have an offline conversation about that.
I just want, but my point to all of this is there's a lot of details that still need to be discussed through this. And we're putting, the cart a bit before the horse. I think that the primary objective tonight that the council needs to really understand is our threshold for parking.
Yeah.
I have a personal opinion on it. I
Go ahead.
I prefer, a pedestrian-friendly area more than I do parking. I think I've made that clear over the several years. And so I think if we could give SWA direction to go back, provide more detail, depending on how the council sees moving forward, do we want to prioritize parking or do we want to prioritize a more pedestrian-friendly environment? And some of the details that they did suggest in their designs, the parking caps, for instance, do provide for a traffic calming element that does influence the whole pedestrian environment. So I think that some of these details should be considered as the discussion goes forward.
Good, thank you. Who wants to go next?
So I kind of so Ann brought up putting a crosswalk on Broadway. I don't know if we could work that out, but it would be good in a way because people treat Broadway as like a racetrack down to Coast Highway and they're just hauling. There's really no way to slow them down. So I don't know if that would be the right thing to do, but I think, that street's kind of out of the mix in a way for a variety of reasons. But one of the reasons is because people are just driving so fast. I also like the idea, first of all, we have these workshops so that people can come out and just, we haven't made any decisions. We're just asking for input. So I wouldn't get too worked up because we're not making decisions here. We're just trying to get input. In fact, this first time I've seen some of these, myself. The other thing I like is that we can use places where we have to take the parking out as bulb outs to beautify the town. I mean, it's just, you're going to lose the parking anyway. Why don't we do something that looks nice? Because, my personal opinion, Mark and I walked the other day and looked at everything once again, but my personal opinion is the streetscape doesn't look that great, and it could look a lot better, and we can take advantage of these bulb outs to do that.
Thank you. Hallie?
At a high level, I'm concerned about removing additional parking. I think taking advantage of really this opportunity we have because we're forced to remove some parking spaces and using those opportunities to beautify the downtown, I think that's a great idea. As much as I think the alternatives would improve the look and feel of downtown, I think they're going to be expensive. I'm concerned about that. And I am concerned about the lack of parking or the loss of parking. I like the idea also of the Broadway crosswalk. I think that I don't want to hold this up in waiting for that because I think that's a long-term bigger project, but I think it's an interesting one, an interesting idea. And I share several of the speakers' concern about tree wells. I think that we can do better than grates and DG. So I think we should be thoughtful about that.
Thank you. Councilor Whalen.
Yeah, I would like to see, I wouldn't go all the way to option 2. I think we need to be careful about the parking we're going to remove. I think there's some of it beyond the required that may make sense, but I'm not sure all of it. For example, the additional crosswalk mid-block at Ocean, I think that took out several parking places. I'm not sure that would be necessary, really. That people cross that street all the time out there without a crosswalk. People cross lots of places without a crosswalk now because the law allows it. But I think it's maybe in the one we're considering tonight, there's also an option to pick up a couple spots in the, the old, where the buses used to turn around. So I think what we should do is my direction to staff would be, I'm willing to look at more than required, but look for other opportunities like that one in the bus, for example, taking out that shade structure. Look for places where you might be able to capture some other spaces off street. Because I agree with Mark. I think, more streetscape would be better, but I lean to not losing too much more parking. And then, I don't know, on the crosswalk at Broadway, I don't know how you'd have to really look into that. I don't know whether that would be a flashing one like we have on the coast highways, because you won't get a traffic signal there. So you'd have to look at that. I do want to speak up though for the some of the businesses on Broadway. There's a couple now that I know that they've been told they've desired to have some outside seating, but they say, oh, Caltrans, we can't get it through, or Caltrans, won't allow it. So I think we do need to think about the businesses that are on Broadway and how we can help facilitate them with getting, even if it's just, temporary seating that comes in and out during the day, each day. On the tree wells, I'm open to looking at other solutions. I was just up at the Norton Simon Museum last week, which has just had a complete refresh, beautiful treatment of some of their tree wells there with kind of a core. It was actually rock in the center, and then brick and I think on sand around it. But we've strived for years here, struggled. I mean, maybe better than strived for years on tree wells, and what we have doesn't work. I mean, we have this stuff that gets kicked all over the street, which looks terrible and is not safe, or we have, we tried that permeable stuff at some points, but it dips down, so you still have the safety issues with that. So something that's going to be flush and, not result in trip and falls should be our first objective. I kind of personally like the tree well, the grates, but I guess there are some limitations on them. But those are my thoughts.
Yeah, so I agree with a lot of my colleagues. I mean, I think when you look at our downtown, a world-class downtown is a pedestrian experience where you have opportunities for people to be able to, walk and have a really elevated streetscape. And I think that should be the priority as we think about, so there's obviously going to be choices made about where we make the decision, to go beyond, if any places beyond what's required by state law. And so for me, my preference would not be to structure it around the existing parklets, but instead in the areas where it makes sense from a walkability perspective. I agree with Ann about Broadway Street, looking at how we can connect that to the rest of the downtown, because I think it feels distant. What's interesting about, I like the idea of having more art pieces in the downtown where you can say every, I think it's 250 feet, there could be a piece of art. What's striking is you look at Broadway and there's essentially for the part closer to Coast Highway, there's no art there right now. So I think that's a cool idea, but I'm very supportive of moving forward with following state law, taking this creative solution, but I would design the interventions and prioritize the areas where we're adding bulb outs based on how do we activate the pedestrian experience as opposed to the outdoor dining, because ultimately I think the goal should be for the public, not just a few restaurants, and we don't even know what's going to be at those restaurants in 10, 50 years. So, but we know that if we have a really vibrant downtown, that helps everyone, and it brings makes opportunities. I think Coastal Commission is going to have a key role here in terms of how many parking spaces could actually be reduced, and so I think having conversations there, to me it seems like maybe I would like to see this in our, so from a CIP perspective, Dave, do we have any money budgeted for this?
We do have an amount in we're not talking about it tonight, but it's in one of your items tonight.
So would this be something that would come, when would this come back?
I need to confer with Tom and Mark about that as to when it would come back.
So it seems like the Promenade Subcommittee, you guys are working on a lot of the things adjacent to this. It makes sense for you to be involved in kind of helping give feedback on this. That would be my take, but I'd like to see maybe two options. One that is more closer to state law, and then if you had to pick, if you had to take away X number of spaces, where would you do it? Almost a prioritization matrix. That seems like a workable next step. But overall, I think this is a very creative approach, and we have to follow the daylighting law. That's state law, and so the idea that we're going to leverage that to create a more pedestrian-friendly, artistic, and tree-filled downtown is just a very exciting thing. So I appreciate all the work done and appreciate all the members of the public who shared their input.
So keep in mind, there's also just the regular sidewalk replacement that we're going to have to continue over time. So this is really an opportunity for us to come up with a strategy. So as these improvements need to happen, they can take place without.
So it's not all done overnight, but it can be done in conjunction with
And there is also an issue that we have when we do identify some, let's just say, tripping hazards. I don't believe Public Works has confidence that they have a consistent detail to go out and replace those particular areas because of the fact that there's not a comprehensive strategy.
Good. Okay.
And a couple things, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, to Mr. Orgel's point, and to Ann raised this, I'm going to die trying to try to get some tree well things that we all agree upon from a trip and fall standpoint first. It's kind of an interesting dialogue, but I won't bore you with it. The other thing to the folks who said, hey, I didn't hear about this, people weren't notified. The city is primarily using our community newsletter. We did 5 town halls in the last 2 or 3 months, and some great attendance on some of them, less so on others. But the days of mailing about town halls it's kind of hard to get to the right people, as you're pointing out. So I'd hope everybody in this room is signed up for Nixle. You get the alerts, and you do thumb through the community newsletter. You can do it on your phone. It takes about 4 minutes. And when you see us advertise a town hall, make a note of that, because that's unless you can tell me a better way to reach people, because I don't think people follow their mail very closely. That's the way we're educating people about our town halls. So happy to hear other opinions about that.
Thank you. Okay, so what we're going to do now is adjourn to closed session. And Anne Marie, let's do a roll call for closed session.
Councilmember Jones.
Here.
Councilmember Kemp.
Here.
Councilmember Whalen.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Orgel.
Here.
Mayor Renagi.
Here. And any public comments on the closed session items? I don't see any. So we're going to close public comment and closed session. So we are going to adjourn to closed session, and on the items listed on the agenda, including conference with real property negotiators with 2307 and 2535 Laguna Canyon Road, agency negotiator Dave Kiff, negotiating parties George Burke, Cards Trust, A, B, and C, and the other items is listed on the agenda. So we will be back at 5 o'clock for our regularly scheduled meeting. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, SWA. Appreciate it.